Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about sexual harassment in the coffee industry. And this comes off a conversation that I had with Bethany and Danny from Baratza, who will be appearing on the podcast tomorrow in the next episode. And it is a discussion that I had with them about an incident that they had through their call center or their customer service line. And it really sparked a cascade of events within Baratza that allowed them the opportunity to come up with guidelines. And they were really proactive in creating guidelines that have gone on to have ripple effects through the company in a really great way. Now, I really encourage you to listen to that conversation on the podcast when it comes out tomorrow. It's fantastic. Here today, I want to point out the 4 different areas that sexual harassment can come from in our workplaces and kind of highlight that this is a very complex, very difficult, very divisive subject in our industry that more often than not, we think is okay to just sweep under the rug. And I think, in my humble opinion, that if we can make the subject more approachable to people and help people be okay with talking about why they're uncomfortable with it, no matter which part of the spectrum they sit on. And what I mean by spectrum is, are you somebody who doesn't ever treat people in a predatory way but know that it happens? Are you someone that has been treated in a predatory way? Are you someone who is a predator? Are you somebody who doesn't believe that this goes on in the industry at all? There's a whole spectrum of opinions about this subject, but we need to start acknowledging that it happens, start listening to each other, and start understanding how it happens. So there are 4 places that predatory behavior can come from. And they are from our colleagues, it can come from our employers, it can come from our suppliers, and it can come from our customers. I guess sort of there's a 5th. So sexual harassment can come from your employees. I've never witnessed anything like that, but let's say that there's 5. It's something that I hadn't considered. Now, as you'll hear from the conversation with Danny and with Bethany, they highlighted something that was really important. And that this goes to the heart of why this isn't a subject that we talk about very much at all in our industry. And that's because people who are the victims of sexual harassment often feel that they're never going to be heard, believed, or taken seriously when something happens. And so therefore they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it when it happens from a customer, because a lot of the time, people being employers feel that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place when their revenue is going to be compromised if a customer is called out for sexually harassing staff. Listen to the next conversation with Danny and Bethany to see how we navigate that situation. It's really important that staff know that they're okay to come to you as an employer or as a colleague if they are being sexually harassed by a customer, and that you have a strategy in place for dealing with that and hearing your staff and believing them. Now, if people are being sexually harassed by co-workers, having a clear policy in the workplace of that's talked about openly when it comes to sexual harassment is incredibly important, because we know from discussions that have been had on this podcast with psychologists previously, the number one thing that signals to a predator that sexual harassment is allowed in the workplace, in this workplace, is if there is not an openly spoken about sexual harassment policy that says, that's the first indicator to a potential predator that sexual harassment is not something that's explicitly not allowed in this workplace. So, protect your staff from being sexually harassed by co-workers by having an open conversation in the workplace that prevents people from believing that sexual harassment is allowed in this workplace, and openly state no sexual harassment happens in this workplace, and this is what will happen if we find out that sexual harassment if we receive a complaint even. And I will include a downloadable file that is going to be talked about in the conversation tomorrow that Danny and Bethany created for Baratza that really is something that I think everybody could learn from and use as a template for how they approach these policies within their own workplace. Now, what happens if a supplier is the person who is sexually harassing your staff? This was the situation for Baratza. A wholesale supplier, a wholesale customer was sexually harassing their staff over the phone and was saying inappropriate things. And all the details are in the conversation tomorrow. This is where you can really start to let your staff know how valued they are to you. When you, as the employer, go and make it very clear to a wholesale customer that you will not tolerate your staff being treated this way, is a clear indication to your staff of how much you value them. If you are valuing your staff above the challenges that a wholesale customer has with keeping their dirty comments to themselves, your staff are going to show you a lot more loyalty and they're going to feel valued. So please invest in making sure that you have a policy in place that if staff are being harassed by customers or by suppliers or by or by colleagues, it's clearly known to everybody that it's not tolerated. Now, the very difficult thing, what happens if you're being sexually harassed by your boss? Leave. If you are in any way being bullied or harassed by your boss, get safe. Trust that feeling inside you that tells you that this is an unsafe environment and leave. And then do what's necessary to take the action that you are comfortable taking to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again. Excuse me. So if you have been violated and want to press charges, if you feel safe doing so, get yourself into a safe situation and then pursue either pressing charges with the police, making a complaint, complaining to a workplace safety board, whatever it is the standard approach in your country, if there is one. And let's be real, society is figuring this out as we go, even though the problem is ancient as it comes. But get yourself safe, get out of that situation if you can. Find someone to talk to and take action if you need to. If you are struggling with this, there are hotlines in your local country to assist with this. Call for advice and ask how you can take some steps to get yourself sorted out. For a lot of people, they stay in a job because they don't know how to get out of that job and get a new job even though they're being sexually harassed. So the complexity of this issue stretches far beyond, well, just leave. And I hear this a lot from men. I don't understand why women don't just leave. Well, it's a little difficult to get your head around that. It's a little difficult also to be in that situation when people don't believe you, when people won't listen to you, when you're not taken seriously, when you feel embarrassed as the victim. You don't want to burden people. You don't want to rock the boat of a apparently fabulous workplace by telling everybody what's going on. The issue is complex, friends, but we've got to start talking openly about it. Check out the episode with Bethany and with Danny, episode 129 or 130. 130, episode 130, the next episode of the podcast. Listen to it. Contact them if you have any questions, and they are open to being a part of the solution in the industry. I hope this has been helpful. Stay safe. Please keep yourself safe and look out for each other. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.